To our top story here tonight, there are 96 opioid treatment facilities in New York State, 5 located right here in the capital region. One is in downtown Albany, and there are some businesses in downtown blaming their lack of foot traffic on that addiction treatment center located on Central Avenue. This clinic, Camino Nuevo, will be the focus for us over the next few days. Joining us now is Sarah Revest, our reporter, who's been working on this story now for weeks, even months. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here this evening to talk about this really important topic that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Yeah, thanks. Good evening, Marissa. What began for me as a day to get to know people in the community quickly shifted focus to concerns I heard over and over again along Central Avenue. Drugs are being used in broad daylight, and they claim a clinic offering medication-assisted treatment for those struggling with addiction is to blame. Here's what one business owner has to say about the unsafe conditions he says Camino Nuevo is creating.
There's a lot of addiction, but I just feel like there's a way and a place that we have to handle it as far as a community.
Celebrity's Barbershop on Central Ave. It's owned by longtime Albany resident Louis Williams.
I definitely think treatment facilities shouldn't be in the inner city. I think we need to put that somewhere out in the suburbs, basically away from everybody. Don't make it so easy for people who do have addictions to leave a clinic and then go to the street and find whatever it is that they're looking for.
Louis is referring to nearby addiction recovery center Camino Nuevo.
And these taxis bring these people that don't even live here. They're not even from our community, but they bring them here to go get the treatment that they need for their addiction. But at the end of the day, now you're flooding the community with more of a problem.
Recently, one of his clients' young children found a used needle outside the barber shop. Word got out, and he's been losing business.
Most likely, if I see the stuff that goes on around here, I'm not going to want to bring my child here. And then that's how it affects people like myself as a barber, who have people that come from all over to get a haircut.
Money aside, what it comes down to for Louis is safety.
The main goal is to keep the community safe and keep the people safe.
And Louis isn't the only person who feels this way. I reached out to Mayor Kathy Sheehan's office to see if they were aware of any problems surrounding the clinic, and I quickly learned they're more than just aware. They told me for years now they've been receiving complaints from other business owners, residents, and even schools in the area about that facility. Now Mayor Sheehan is demanding something be done about it. I'll have that story coming up in the next hour.
Back to our top story now. Earlier tonight, we introduced you to a barbershop owner on Central Avenue who's blaming a decline in his business on a methadone clinic nearby called Camino Nuevo. Now, Spectrum News 1 had an exclusive interview with Mayor Kathy Sheehan. She's taken issue with the facility as well and is demanding change.
It's heartbreaking to see businesses that were there for years and years and years, and they cannot make it or don't want to because of what they have to deal with from a quality of life standpoint.
Joining me now to talk more about this is our reporter Sarah Revest, who brought us that story with the barbershop owner earlier today. Now, Sarah, if this is a problem, this methadone treatment facility, you've got the mayor speaking out about it, residents, business owners. It seems like the mayor could step in and do something. Why isn't that happening?
Yeah, unfortunately for the city, they just don't have the authority to do that. This isn't a bar or a restaurant that can be deemed a nuisance property. Camino Nuevo is a clinic that offers medication-assisted treatment for people who are struggling with addiction, and it's regulated by state and federal agencies. But Mayor Kathy Sheehan, she's been building a case with complaints dating back to 2017 in hopes that the state will step in and move the facility. Here are some of the pictures they shared with me. Now, a warning, some of you may find these photos upsetting. So this first photo is taken from the surrounding area. This picture was sent in anonymously, but taken in the parking lot of the Brighter Choice Charter School just a few blocks away. It would appear drugs are being injected. And next, this is a video I took from a vacant lot that's next to Sheridan Prep Academy, where the ground is just littered with needles. Now, we can't attribute those needles directly to the clinic, but there is a lot of paraphernalia visible in that area, and the Albany Police Department tells us it's a known spot for drug use. Mayor Sheehan says one of the main issues here is location.
This is not a model that is viable or that works. They need to be on a padded site with ingress and egress controlled, where there is not the ability to wander into a neighborhood, into a business district, to be preyed upon. and to access things that these are, again, individuals with substance use issues, and they are being let out into an area where, you know, it's like if somebody had a gambling addiction and saying, okay, here you go, I'm letting you out into the casino.
Sarah, that video that you took was pretty unbelievable. And when you look at the area, we've known that drugs are an issue at times in different parts of big cities, Albany included. Crime is another issue. What is being done about trying to curb the drug use so it doesn't lead to crime? What is the Albany Police Department? What role are they playing here? Yeah,
Mayor Sheehan told me that there have been sting operations in the past, but she really doesn't want to treat addiction with arrests. Okay. So instead, she says the clinic should be relocated to an area with no businesses or schools nearby, one that has its own parking lot, just like the Whitney Young Health Methadone Clinic on DeWitt Street, which doesn't have these same kind of issues. So I took the mayor's concerns straight to Camino Nuevo. We'll take a deeper dive into the work they're doing and how they're responding Thursday.
This week, we're taking a closer look at complaints over a methadone clinic we first told you about on Wednesday. It's called Camino Nuevo, and it's on Central Avenue in Albany. Mayor Kathy Sheehan told us she agrees with store owners and some residents nearby who say this isn't the place to help people in recovery. Now, they're not saying that help isn't necessary. They understand it is, but they just say it's the location that they're having issues with. The city is linking high crime and loss of business back to that clinic. Our Sarah Rivest joins us now in studio with more. Sarah, you first told us about this on Wednesday. You introduced us to one of those business owners who has a problem with this clinic and now expanding upon it. Here more today.
Right. I sat with Mayor Sheehan and other city leaders who all expressed to me their concern that 175 Central Avenue is not an appropriate spot for a methadone clinic. So I went to Camino Nuevo to hear its response and learned there's a ton of misconceptions about the facility. I met a woman who is hoping by sharing her story, some of the stigma surrounding the clinic and addiction treatment in general will go away, helping others in the process.
He is very intelligent, too intelligent for his own good. He loves chihuahuas and animals.
Casey Hayner lights up when you ask her about her relationship with her 10-year-old son, Tori.
He's my biggest cheerleader by far.
He must be so proud of his son.
Yes, he's very proud, and he lets me know that all the time.
It's a close bond she was willing to fight for. 6 years ago, she was in the depths of an opiate addiction.
My mom and dad didn't think I was going to make it through that summer. I didn't. I'm surprised I did as well. I was in a very fragile place with not just my drug use, but my mental health.
After receiving treatment at an inpatient facility, Casey struggled to stay sober until she found Camino Nuevo. They offer MAT, or medication-assisted treatment.
Methadone and Suboxone and other forms of MAT are really necessary for a lot of people, that piece of their recovery. You know, it's not some magic cure-all, but it definitely is a big piece of my recovery, and I know a lot of my peers as well.
The program demanded a huge commitment from her entire family. Casey lives in Saratoga County. At first, she was required to take the medication in front of her nurses 6 days a week at the Albany clinic. Her father retired early to take care of Tori on those long days Casey traveled for treatment.
Combination of counselors here that have helped me through telling their stories and just self-disclosure and letting, showing us hope.
Hope made way for a healthy relationship with Tori.
He knows about my recovery. I'm very transparent because he remembers when mommy wasn't okay, unfortunately. So now I'm able to show him mommy got better.
Getting better was just the beginning. Casey now advocates with Vocal New York for addiction resources. She's on the patient advisory board at Camino, became a certified recovery peer advocate, and now helps others at the clinic. She says she's doing it all for Tori.
I wasn't able to go into a sober living facility because I had a son with autism and it wasn't a conducive environment for him. And I want to make a conducive environment for parents with children with disabilities or multiple children that aren't able to go to sober living facilities. So, and I will do that one day. I will.
And Casey told me that she is committed to continue working on her recovery, and she credits Camino Nuevo for being alive. I spoke with the clinic's senior administrator of addiction services, and she told me their organization, they face backlash at every single one of their locations. But she says those locations are chosen because there is a need. She says the administration is also happy to work with the community on any issues they have with the clinic.
Sarah, first of all, we want to thank Casey for telling her story because, as a lot of people know, addiction is a huge issue right now, and that's a tough story to tell. So we do thank her for being so honest. Now, there are claims that patients are actually selling their medications once they leave the clinic, and that's why people are finding needles in that area. You showed us some video on Wednesday of a lot of needles around that specific building. But Casey told you that she and other patients have to earn those take-home privileges. What does she exactly mean by that?
Yeah, Marissa, it's a process. So the clinic says they don't just send people in recovery into the world with the methadone or Suboxone it prescribes, because they are, after all, opioids that can be misused and abused. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to take you inside the clinic, and you'll hear directly from Camino Nuevo reps about how MAT works and why they believe Central Avenue is the right place for it.
This week, we've been looking into a methadone clinic in Albany that's really become a point of concern for residents, business owners, and city officials who say it's impacting the quality of life for some people in that area. But those who go there seeking treatment for their addiction say it's a saving grace. We're talking about Camino Nuevo, located in the Hoff building. I'm sure you've seen this on Central Avenue. It's 175 Central Ave. There are other organizations that call that same building home as well. And another point of contention with people is the fact that there are schools nearby. Sarah Revest is joining us now with more in studio. Sarah, thank you so much for the time. And you first brought us this information on Wednesday, and now you're expanding upon that here today. There are some claims that people who are using this facility may have their medication go out into the streets and then sell that medication for drugs. Whether or not that happens, we're not 100% certain, but there are claims that it's happening. And there are also claims that people who sell drugs are preying on people who come out of this facility, correct?
Right, Marissa. That's exactly why I wanted to really understand how this whole take-home medication process works. So to protect patient confidentiality, I wasn't allowed inside the clinic, but I was given these photos that you're seeing on your screen right now. The clinic offers MAT, or what's known as medication-assisted treatment. Okay. So it's just how Casey explained to us in that story at 5 o'clock. Therapy wasn't enough for her, but the combination of therapy along with medication is what finally worked to sustain her recovery. MAT helps to normalize brain chemistry and body functions when coming off opiates. It also blocks any euphoric effects caused by opiates if a patient does relapse. So on-site physicians order the medications, usually methadone or Suboxone, and nurses are right there watching as patients take their medication in person. Now, patients can earn more take-home bottles as they progress in their treatment, and in order to continue their dosage, they have to return those bottles or their take-home privileges are revoked.
We do regular drug toxicology testing on all of our clients. And as I mentioned, in order to get some sort of take-home medicine, there has to be some sort of stability and obviously abstinence in drug or alcohol use.
Now, if a patient fails a drug test or is ever caught selling or misusing their medication, Smith says they would lose those take-home privileges, and that would mean they'd be back to square one, having to go into the clinic every single day.
Okay, Sarah, now, interesting. I actually didn't realize that these drugs would prevent that that high, that euphoric feeling. So it's interesting. Is this happening outside of the clinics? Obviously, people are telling you, yes, it is. There are drug deals going on there. Mayor Sheehan says a business district just isn't the right place for an addiction center, but Camino Nuevo set up shop in that Hoff building we saw just a couple of minutes ago back in 2015. So how did they end up getting there in the first place?
Well, Camino Nuevo would have never been allowed to set up shop there if they weren't approved by OASIS. That's the Office of Addiction Services and Support. So on Friday, I'll have more on how the approval process works for this clinic and other facilities across the state.
Over the last 3 days, we've been investigating claims by the city of Albany that a methadone clinic is contributing to an increase in crime and creating a poor quality of life for some residents and business owners in the area. Sarah Vest has been looking into those allegations and joins us now with more on what she's learned. Now, Sarah, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and do this. You spoke with Albany Mayor Kathy Sheehan. She says that the Albany Police Department can't handle the volume of methadone-related arrests happening in particular in this area. We know the drug is given out right there at Camino Nuevo, located on Central Avenue. So what exactly is going on here?
Yeah, to find out, I reached out to the Capital Region Crime Analysis Center to break down the amount of service calls in that area from 2015 when the clinic opened to now. So they were able to provide me with data on calls placed directly to 175 Central Avenue. Then I asked them to send me the logs for the area surrounding the building. And finally, I was curious to see the statistics for the Albany zip code 12206. So here's what we see based on the numbers alone. We can see the amount of calls increase in 2017 across the board, which does coincide with Camino Nuevo increasing the capacity of patients it serves. However, we cannot directly attribute these numbers to Camino Nuevo because the calls for service, they include things like EMS calls, traffic stops, fire calls, and all sorts of things.
You talk about the increase in capacity there at Camino Nuevo. Now, I know one of the other complaints from Mayor Sheehan, something she spoke with you about, is the fact that a lot of these patients actually aren't from Albany County. You introduced us yesterday to someone who was a Saratoga County resident who had to come all the way here to Albany, right on Central Avenue, to get that treatment. So do the numbers back up what the mayor says?
Yeah, Marissa, they do, but we have to remember in order for Camino Nuevo to set up shop at 175 Central Avenue, it had to prove there was a need for those services in that community. Then the clinic had to be approved by the State Office of Addiction Services and Supports with city and or county input. So any treatment facility in New York State goes through that same process. Camino Nuevo says 37% of their patients are from Albany County. 13% are from neighboring Rensselaer County, and from Saratoga County, like Casey, 8%, and 12% are from Schenectady County. So while some say Albany has become everyone's backyard, the clinic says their patients that they're serving there, they prove there's a need. So coming up in the next hour, we'll hear from state officials about how dire the need for treatment has become.
In the last hour, we looked at crime statistics surrounding an addiction treatment clinic in the city of Albany. Leaders there say it's contributing to an increase in illegal activity. We're talking about Camino Nuevo on Central Avenue. I'm sure if you've been on Central, you've seen that building, very recognizable. The city's calling for the clinic to relocate, but Camino Nuevo representatives, along with patients who use its services, say the need for treatment is there. Our Sarah Vest joins us again for the final part of her series, where we revisit the concerns and also hear from a new voice, the state agency that oversees the clinic's operations. Good evening, Sarah.
Hey, good evening, Marissa. Yeah, the State Office of Addiction Services and Supports says it helps more than 200,000 people each year with treatment for substance abuse, and it's something they say has been worsened by the pandemic. The agency says more than 500 people in the capital region are enrolled at programs at Camino Nuevo. But even with all the clinic is providing, some residents and city officials are adamant that it must relocate. While they didn't offer a solution as to where exactly the clinic should go, we can tell you how the debate is playing out.
So many people fell through the cracks, no fault of their own, because of this pandemic. So now the problem that we were already dealing with has just gotten so much worse.
Over 5,100 New Yorkers died last year from a preventable overdose. In October, Governor Kathy Hochul signed 5 new bills addressing the opioid epidemic, including increased access to MAT. or medication-assisted treatment.
I've been here at the clinic, Camino Nuevo, for 5.5 years. When I started, I was in a very fragile place with not just my drug use, but my mental health.
Camino Nuevo in Albany is one of 96 opioid treatment programs across the state. The Office of Addiction Services and Supports annually treats 50,000 people with substance abuse and gambling problems. For people like Casey Hayner, she says she's gotten her life back because of the combination of therapy and medication. But for Lewis Williams, whose celebrity barbershop is located just down the block from a treatment facility, he sees it in a whole different light.
It affects us as far as the people that want to come here, because if I'm bringing my son here and I'm from the suburbs, most likely if I see the stuff that goes on around here, I'm not going to want to bring my child here.
He blames a decrease in business on an increase in drug activity and needles littering the streets since the clinic's establishment. And he's not alone. The city's mayor, Kathy Sheehan, wants the facility relocated.
I mean, we're incredibly frustrated, and this is something that has been going on since they expanded the number of patients who were being treated at this facility. This was never the right location for a methadone clinic. It's wrong on many levels, but it has grown worse with the expansion of the number of patients that are served there.
Local governments are a part of the initial decision-making regarding a location, as was the case with Camino Nuevo. But when the clinic wanted to expand, they could do so without city input in an application to Oasis. At Camino, what began as treatment for a few dozen clients in 2015 skyrocketed to over 500 in 2021.
Through time, and obviously the epidemic being at its peak, it was not unusual to see increased numbers of people needing treatment. So yes, our numbers have increased.
And Oasis says it does encourage providers to increase capacity as long as they can meet staffing requirements. So it would seem we're at a crossroads. Should the clinic heed to the city's calls to relocate, or should the city find a way to live with its neighbor? While the answer remains unclear for now, we do know Albany Mayor Sheehan's office does intend to follow up.
Sarah, thank you so much for the excellent reporting over the last few days. And just a reminder to our viewers, you can find the full report on our website, SpectrumLocalNews.com.